He's talking about gingerbread house.
Come on, Grandpa.
Oh, yeah. We got a song for the heart of Wakefield. Yeah.
As we discussed over Friday, all export the casket to its good while you remain here, and as soon as the casket is lowered, we'll invite you to come into the station. Well, righteous, Holy One, the mandate of Iraq. In every way, the Holy One is righteous, compassionate in all doings. Your righteousness is righteousness everlasting. Your Torah is truth. The mandates of God are truth, righteous, and harmonious. The sovereign's utterance is authoritative. Who can say to the sovereign, "What are you doing?" God is oneness. Who can dissuade the Holy One? Whatever God desires, God does. Small and great are there. The servant is free of the overseer. If God cannot trust God's servants and questions the integrity of divine messengers, how much less so of a human, of people, the rock. Pure simplicity are God's acts, for all God's ways are judicious. A faithful God without wickedness, direct and righteous is the one. The judge of truth, arbiter of righteousness and truth. Blessed is the judge of truth, for all God's judgments are compassion and truth. Almakoma Tabo Shalom. May Jeanne go to her place in Shalom. In peace. Thank you.
If you want, you can put the shovel in the pile so you don't have to hold it. Stay standing, Korea.
Yes.
Are you ready? Okay.
begin the funeral ceremony with a short ritual called kriya, tearing. Kriya is an outward expression of an inner process. Cutting the ribbon permits us to release our emotions and express to others that the fabric of our lives has been torn. Despite our loss and our sorrow, we recite a blessing. In blessing, we affirm that the world still holds hope and truth, love and beauty. These are found in what we share together, in the comfort that we give one another, and in the memories that will sustain us. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, dayan ha'emet. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of all worlds, source of truth and finitude. Maxine is going to tear on behalf of
From the bottom.
her and her siblings. Adonai Natan v'Adonai Lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevarach. The Eternal has given, the Eternal has taken. Blessed be the name of the Eternal. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, menachem avelim. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of all worlds, who consoles those who mourn. The Hebrew word for funeral is levaya, which means accompaniment. Both in life and in death, being alone is one of our greatest fears. So now we're gathered here to accompany Jeanne to her final resting place on earth. Coming together so that we are not left alone in our mourning, we begin to plant the seeds of memory, watered by the tears of a loss. We'll begin with Eshet Chaya, Woman of Valor, which is a poem from the book of Proverbs. It tells of an ideal Jewish woman, and as I read it, you'll hear how Jeanne was an Eshet Chaya, a woman of valor. What a rare find is a valiant woman. Her worth surpasses by far what can be measured in material things. With her husband, she holds a union of trust. They are everything to each other. All the days of their life, they evoke the best in each other. In all her endeavors, she is like a lighthouse, bringing light and guidance to all who pass by. From first light of day to darkest night, she seeks to supply the needs of her family and community. She conceives an idea and nurtures it, bringing into fruition her dreams. She strengthens herself with joy and vitality. She attacks her task with enthusiasm. Her enthusiasm never ceases. Her force cannot be diminished. Her happiness shines for her children and friends. Her husband praises her. Many women have done well, but she surpasses them all. Beauty may be deceptive and words the weapon of stealth, but a life of action bears its own witness to the glory of Adonai. Praise her for her deeds, her life of valor. Praise her to the heavens, praise her to all. We're drawn together today in loving memory of Jeanne Alter, Zichrona Livracha, of blessed memory. You were all touched by her intelligence, her engaging nature, and her special kind of love. Today, the goal for our time together is multifold. Our main focus is to perform the mitzvah of Kavod HaMet, honoring the deceased. Afterwards, we'll move to the mitzvah of Nichum Avelim, comforting the mourners. We'll share some poetry, some psalms, and some stories about Jeanne. I invite all of you to remember what it is in your relationship to Jeanne that makes you smile, makes you sad for her loss, and what characteristics of Jeanne you cherish. Allow yourself to feel the range of emotions that come up for you today. We'll begin with a poem. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember them. In the blowing of the wind and the chill of winter, we remember them. In the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, we remember them. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them. So long as we live, they too shall live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them. Psalm 15. God, who may dwell in your tent? Who may reside on your holy mountain? One who lives without blame, one who does what is right, in whose heart truth is acknowledged, whose speech promotes no evil, who has sought to do no harm to others, nor acted hurtfully toward neighbors, who abhors contemptible behavior, but who honors those who revere God, who does not waver, even at great personal risk, from keeping a promise, who seeks no reward for a generous action and takes no bribe to distort judgment against the innocent. Whoever does so shall never be shaken. And next we'll recite Psalm 23, which is on the first page of your booklets. Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. From the book of Ecclesiastes. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to seek and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to cast away. A time to rend and a time to sow. A time to keep silence and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time of war and a time of peace. There is a time to speak, and that time is now. It's important to eulogize those who have passed so that we may get a glimpse into the many facets of their lives. The function of a hesped, or eulogy, is to offer honor and dignity to the deceased. Jeff, Peggy, Hal, and Maxine will now offer some thoughts and memories about their mother. We'll begin with Jeff.
Hi, I'm Jeff. I want to welcome and greet all the family and friends of Jeanne, Irma, Phillips, Alter. Mom, I'm sad for me because I miss you, but I'm happy you passed peacefully. The Monday before you passed, a nurse at the ALF called 911 because of your extreme lethargy. After EMS assessed you, they reported to the nurse there was no reason to take you to the hospital at that time and to put you in bed and watch over you. I believe you passed because it was his will and your time, and nothing in this world should have interfered with it. This past week after you passed, I've reached for my phone a few times to call you. One time I let it ring and let your message play. Your upbeat voice made me smile. If there's music in heaven, I picture you and Dad hugging and square dancing. 2 days ago, Saturday morning, I was taking my daily walk. The sky was mostly blue with a few clouds. Near the end of my walk, a sun shower started. After a few steps, instead of hurrying home, I took off my hat and looked up through the rain toward the cloud above. As the raindrops landed on my cheek, a cardinal flew by in front of me. I became emotional and realized the raindrops on my cheek might be tears from an angel missing my hugs. The rain shower was short and I finished my walk feeling very relaxed and calm. I'm glad you were my mom. I love you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Peggy will speak next.
Sorry, I'm here now. This is Peggy. When I think about the majority of my my grown-up life with my mom, it's a lot about culinary stuff, because every time she would call, I knew that it was going to be some question about cooking. Like, can I still use that flour that we bought 10 years ago on sale? Or can I substitute coffee for rum in this recipe? You know, but we really were able to have a lot of fun playing and creating, whether it was with food, my cake decorating, design. Whenever she would buy new furniture or we needed to like redesign something, we were always really good resources for each other, and I will always miss that. Like Jeff, it was always nice to know that I could pick up the phone and hear her voice, and I too will miss that very much. This morning, Mom, I put out a double portion of scrambled eggs for my crows, just in case your heron is thinking of you too. Okay? I love you, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Peggy. Third, Hal will speak.
Mom, you met Dad in New Hampshire when you both were just children. In the hot summers. You from Boston, Dad from New York. So I guess in some ways we owe you guys meeting to there not being air conditioning at the time. But as we got older, you would tell us stories about those special times that you had spent together when you were young. Dad winning tennis matches with the older guys, and you with your dancing, costumes, and plays, bicycles built for two. Later, you took us kids to New Hampshire to enjoy the places and things that you guys had done together. Places like the Flume, the Old Man in the Mountains, Polly's Pancake House, riding horses and campfires at Birchtoft, and climbing Mount Monadnock. You complimented Dad in so many ways. You were pretty, vivacious, and active. Dad, you were a catch, and he did not let you get away. Married when you were 18, leaving Boston, but you moved us all back to Boston to be closer to the people and the places that you depended on. And we have so many great memories of Grandma Bet, Grandpa Louie, Uncle Mart, Aunt Jeanne, all of the aunts, uncles, cousins. I see Mary on the phone. Thank you. Also Sharon. There may be others as well. But we enjoyed those family traditions, and you kept those traditions alive. You and Dad grew older, you would be there at all of our important family moments. You hosted the holidays, you would fly in for all the graduations. You loved walking down the aisle at the grandchildren's weddings, being announced and dancing at the receptions. I think you had a great time, and we had a great time seeing you enjoy your growing family. When I was little, I actually thought you were cool in a lot of ways. You were younger and more outgoing than most of our friends' moms. You loved to entertain Dad's work friends. You would have a weekly girls' night out, as it were, playing mahjong. And you'd actually put out cigarettes for guests, even though you and Dad didn't smoke. And we really loved that you could ice skate backwards. Later in life, you truly enjoyed your time with the grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And I remember your Pride at West Point graduation as an example. And later I remember after a discussion I think you had with your friends, realizing that Northwestern was a pretty good business school. Recently, you delighted listening about stories of the great-grandchildren's activities. Dancing, skiing, plays, costumes, baking challah, pets, 4-H bunnies and chickens, recitals, goals, accomplishments, and awards. And you would tell me about how glad you were for my last visit, remembering what we did, what I was wearing. You also wanted me to teach skiing to some of your friends in Florida, which was pretty funny. You lived a long life, but I expected you to live longer. You really left us too soon. Maybe you were ready, but I was not. I looked forward to our conversations, and I'll miss them. I'm glad that you are in Wakefield. Look at the beautiful cemetery where you are and with Dad. And this is the right place for you to be. We would joke about the two of you square dancing in heaven, but maybe you will. Rest in peace, Mom. We love you.
Thank you, Hal. And finally, Maxine will share some words about her mother. Whatever you want.
All right, well, I just want to thank Liz Freeman for being here, part of our growing up at the Tample, and Harriet Goldman. The Goldmans were really important to our parents, the whole family. They were like family. And Rabbi Gregory Hersh, who is now at Temple Emmanuel, which meant so much to us growing up with Rabbi Goldstein, who meant a lot to her. I want to thank Ed and Nina for coming. And I know this is a beautiful cemetery by the lake. Hal said some of the things that I was going to say, but it is great to be here. She lives on with all of us. She gave us a lot of musical talent, which became my life and my family's life. And we'll always remember her music and all the gifts that she gave all of us and all the good times. And now she's here in this beautiful place. So I want to thank everybody.
Thank you. And you four children of Jeanne have done her great honor with the beautiful words you've offered. Thank you. Thank you all. Jeanne Alter was born in 1928 near here in Everett, Massachusetts, to two loving and wonderful parents, Louis and Bette. Growing up with her older brother, Martin, Jeanne's family didn't have an extravagant lifestyle, but Louis and Bette helped and supported them to the best of their ability. They instilled values in Jeanne that lasted throughout her lifetime. Louis's main joy in life was his family, but a close second was his violin. Jeanne grew up hearing him play and dancing along to his melodies. And Jeanne's mom, Bette, was an entertainer par excellence. Everyone loved her cooking, and she'd fill the house with family and friends for all the holidays. Growing up in such a household, filled with music and guests, Jeanne became a dancer and a socialite at a young age. Her mother, Bette, could see Jeanne's innate dancing talent from very early on and would take her to dance lessons in downtown Boston via streetcar, which was a whole Megillah. While there were some dance teachers in Everett, Bette only wanted the best for Jeanne. Jeanne had hoped to be a ballerina, but didn't have the right physical build for it, so she became a tap dancer, like Shirley Temple, who had just risen to fame at that time. Throughout her youth, Jeanne was a dancer, entertaining guests at Jewish hotels in the Poconos, in upstate New York, and in New Hampshire. One of the highlights of this early dance career was performing with the legendary Bill Bojangles Robinson. During the summers, Louis and Bette worked at Jewish resorts so that they could provide these experiences for their family, and Jeanne loved entertaining the guests. Over the years, she got to know some of the guests who'd come back year after year, and one of them was her beshert, the love of her life, Bob Alter. Their romance spanned several summers, and when Jeanne was 18, they got married. In describing the first ever marriage, that of Adam and Eve, the book of Genesis reads, quote, "Therefore shall a man leave his father and mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh." This is just as true for Jeanne, who spent her childhood in Massachusetts preparing to be the next Shirley Temple. But when she found Bob, everything in her life changed. At age 18, Jeanne turned down a dancing job that would have made her a nationwide household name, and instead moved to New York with Bob. They became square dancing partners, and together were able to share her love of dancing and music. They square danced all over the country, making many new friends along the way. The highlight of their square dancing experiences was when they performed at the bicentennial celebration of the Statue of Liberty in 1986. Jeanne and Bob quickly outgrew their small New York apartment and moved to Clifton, New Jersey, when Jeff was 6 months old. There they had two more children, Peggy and Hal. After almost 8 years in Clifton, they moved up to Reading, Massachusetts, where Jeanne could be in closer proximity to her parents and family. Her brother Martin lived in Newton, just a few towns over. Martin and Jeanne each had 4 children. Maxine, Jeanne and Bob's youngest child, was born in Massachusetts. so all the cousins spent time together while they were growing up. Here in Massachusetts, Jeanne was able to recreate some of those big family parties like she had enjoyed as a child. Jeanne provided her children with lots of different experiences and activities around the house. Jeff, Peggy, Hal, and Maxine all grew up climbing trees, doing crafts, and learning to play the piano. Jeanne also helped her children by volunteering with the PTA, theater groups, and scouts. Jeanne also loved animals. There were pets all over the house: dogs, cats, rabbits, turtles, fish, almost a whole zoo. As a child, Jeanne played with dolls. As a mom, she played with pets. And throughout her life, she always loved stuffed animals. Just a couple days before she died, Jeanne asked Peggy to send her her little lamb so that Peggy could fix the wool on it. As a grandmother, Jeanne did everything she could to make her grandchildren and great-grandchildren's lives very special. One of the many ways Jeanne showed her love was to send them care packages, which could be chocolate chip cookies or toys or clothes, tangible reminders of her love for them. One of the things that made Jeanne so special was that even though she was 92 years old when she died, she always remained young at heart. Her granddaughter, Nina's 27-year-old boyfriend, once joked, "I've never seen a 90-something-year-old woman do a split before. She can kick her leg up higher than me." Another theme throughout Jeanne's life was her fervent love of Judaism. Wherever she lived, she was always involved in Jewish life and temple activities. She loved singing in the temple choir and being a member of Hadassah and the sisterhood. When she moved to Florida later in life, she took great pride in becoming a bat mitzvah at the age of 80. In 2008, Jeanne suffered a stroke. This prevented her from driving, but didn't result in many other major physical impairments. It caused some shakiness in her knees initially, but after attending Kol Nidre Yom Kippur services with Jeff later that year, she said a prayer, and miraculously, her knees soon stopped shaking. Jeanne outlived her husband, Bob, who passed away 6 years ago from pancreatic cancer. For the last several years, Jeanne resided in an assisted living facility in Florida. Physically, she remained active until the week before she died, but mentally, she had been in a long, slow decline. Eventually, her physical health waned and her body shut down. Jeanne led a long and happy life. Her memory will live on in the hearts of her children, her grandchildren, and her great-grandchildren. We now move to El Malei Rachamim, God filled with mercy, the central prayer of a Jewish funeral. It speaks of how the soul, having sojourned in the physical world, is now restored to the everlasting source of life, the continuum of being, reality, and holy presence. I'll do the English first, followed by the Hebrew. God filled with mercy, dwelling in the heavens' heights, bring proper rest beneath the wings of your Shekhinah, amid the ranks of the holy and the pure, illuminating like the brilliance of the skies the soul of Jeanne Alter, who has gone to her eternal place of rest. May you, who are the source of mercy, shelter her beneath your wings eternally, and bind her soul among the living, that she may rest in peace. And let us say,
Amen.
Amen. El Malei Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Amsei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei Hashchina, B'ma'alot Kedoshim Utohorim, Kezohar Harakia Mazhirim, Et Nishmat Adina Yenta Bat Leib V'Beila Shelcha Leolama, V'Gan Eden Tehei Menuchata, Ana Bal Harachamim, Hastira B'Seter Kenafecha Leolamim, Utzror Bitzror HaChaim Et Nishmata, Adonai hu nachalata, v'tanuach b'shalom al mishkava, v'nomar Amen. Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai mevorach. God has given, God has taken. Blessed be the name of God. We'll now move from honoring Kavod Hamet, honoring the deceased, to Nichum Avelim, comforting the mourners. And the first thing that the mourners do is to recite Mourner's Kaddish, which is the back of your packets. And this is a mitzvah opportunity that you can do over the course of the next year as a way of remembering your mom and keeping her as a part of your life. Please join me in the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbi, Ve'amra zivra tirutei ve'amlik malchutei, v'chayechon yomechon, v'chayechon beit Yisrael, Yagalav zman karev v'yimru amen.
Amen.
Shmei Rabbi Mevorach, Yitzbarach v'yishtabach v'yit'ar v'yit'ma v'yit'aseh, Yithadar v'yit'halem v'yit'halal, Shmei D'Kudashah, B'richu, Le'olot, Mincho, V'chasav, V'shirta, V'chapta v'nechamata, Damin Ran v'yalma v'yimru.
Amen.
Rabba min Shemaya, V'chayim aleinu v'yalcho Yisrael, Yimru Amen. Omrim Amav, Hu Yaseh Shalom, Aleinu v'yalcho Yisrael. Amen.
Amen.
We now move to the concluding portions of our service. At the end of a day, we gently cover a child with blankets as we tuck them in. At the end of a person's life, the last act we do for them, an act of gemilut chasadim, of loving kindness, is to cover their coffin. We'll now perform the mitzvah of covering the casket from the earth, with the earth from which it came. I'll go first to demonstrate, and everyone else is invited to do it afterwards, one at a time. For those with a shovel, the custom is to do the first shovel upside down to represent how your world has been turned upside down. And then the second two shovels are normal. If you brought a shovel, feel free to use it. I invite Maxine to go after me and everybody else to follow.
Is it too early to put the rock?
We'll do that at the end.
Where do you want me to stand? Over there. I like the hand idea.
V'yashav ha'afar al ha'aretz k'shehaya ve'aruach tashuv el ha'elohim asher natana. The dust returns to the earth as it was, but the spirit returns to God who gave it.
All right, I'll do that.
You got it.
You can do three. Ed, you can do three.
So traditionally, the conclusion of a funeral, we would make 2 lines and offer comfort to the mourners as they pass through. But due to social distancing, I will offer the traditional words of comfort for you and those who could not join us today. Hamakom yanachem etchem b'toch shar avlei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. May you be comforted among the mourners of Zion. Thank you.
Should we conclude?
Thank you all for your presence today.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.